around the world. This is our second preview program of our section Vision, where the perspective of sustainable minds confronts our cultural realities of every day. This time, in this last Saturday of every month, we are having a wonderful guest speaker. It's an honor to have it in Lima. It's an honor to say to you that we are having Dr. Jairo Garcia with us. Thank you, Dr. Jairo, for being with us.
Thank you so much for inviting me, Carrie. Thank you so much. I'm very pleased to be here. Thank you.
We are honored to have such a wonderful human being and also such a wonderful activist, professor, academic. Oh my God, I have to introduce you who Dr. Jairo Garcia is. Dr. Jairo Garcia is an expert in urban sustainability, climate change, and sustainability education. Dr. Garcia is the former director of climate policy with the city of Atlanta and lead author of Atlanta's Climate Action Plan. He received the National Individual Climate Leadership Award by the EPA in 2017. Dr. Garcia holds an engineering degree, 2 Masters of Science degrees, and a doctoral degree in educational technology and sustainability also. Presently, Dr. Garcia is the CEO of Urban Climate Nexus and teaches classes in urban sustainability and climate change at Johns Hopkins University and the Georgia Institute of Technology, and so much more. Oh my God, Dr. Garcia, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing better than I did during the last 4 years. So I'm very, very, very happy and very pleased with what we are making with this country. And hopefully we can start to take a global action to address sustainability and climate change.
Yes, of course. And I will thank God for our lives also here, for Teresa and Mauricio that they are back there, for Dr. Garcia, for everybody that is watching right now, and the ones that are rebroadcasting our YouTube channel that are from Lima. I tell you, may God bless you and thank God for your lives. God loves you, and we are here because He's so good. So we are going to start our today live climate talk, as I always like to say to every people that are hearing us. So tell us about how you indeed are working in the sustainability and climate change issues.
So I would like to say, Kerry, that I am Latino, as you can detect by my accent. I'm originally from Colombia. I grew up in a very poor neighborhood of Colombia. And then I struggled, to go to school. I was working since I was 7 years old, but I ended up having some good grades at the university, and I was lucky to be hired by an American company. And then I moved here to the United States, and I completed my education, and I was hired by the big corporations. Have you heard about Coca-Cola, maybe?
Yes, of course. Who doesn't hear about Coca-Cola?
So Coca-Cola, I work with Coca-Cola as an engineer. As a matter of fact, I basically work migrating the entire network of Coca-Cola to the internet when the internet started. So I travel all over the world. I visited so many places. I was telling you that I've been in Buenos Aires many times, and Mexico many times. So I traveled all over the world. But everywhere that I went, I saw the same problems. A lot of pollution, the smog, poverty, the environmental destruction was just, it was just so sad to see. I remember going to Colón, the Colón town right in front of Buenos Aires, and see from the distance Buenos Aires, and then you don't see the skylines because the smog over Buenos Aires. So it was just so sad. Everywhere that I went, it was just destruction and destruction. But it was the pinnacle was when I was in Lima, Peru, that I saw the Lima River practically without water. And then one block from there, it was the Coca-Cola company, selling Coca-Cola products. So it was kind of
in what year was this?
Lima, in Lima, Peru. That was in 2008. 2008.
Oh my God! I mean, there's a lot of time. Like from here, 2021. It's a lot, and still in that year, you were having trouble seeing everything, seeing the water.
Yeah, it was terrible. So when I came back, I was working in my doctoral dissertation, and I was working in economic development. But I realized economic development is not. Economic development is just one component of sustainability. It's not about economic development. It's part of it. but it's also environmental issues and social issues. So those are the three pillars of sustainability: the economy, the environment, and society. And without those three, we cannot achieve a sustainable development.
What we commonly call the circular economy, right? That without that, we cannot like have a development country or a development mind, right?
Exactly right.
How about the climate change over there? I mean, in all the economic circular minds that we need to have, how about the climate change? How do you match the climate change with the circular economy?
So basically, what the climate change is the result of malpractices in our path to sustainable development. Well, not sustainable development, to the economic development at that time. It was about, if you burn a lot of gas and you destroy the planet, then you make a lot of money. That was absolutely absurd. And now we are paying the consequences because we basically, as using the words of one of my mentors at Columbia University in New York, he said that we woke up a monster. With climate change, we woke up a big monster, and we are expecting, according to the scientific community, we are expecting the worst of climate change. All of that we created was because malpractices in the way that we are creating economic development. So basically right now, the climate change is threatening. It's not just only the economy, but it's threatening the human existence. So there are many studies that show. I can spend a long time. That's what I teach at
I know.
But there are many studies that show that in the path that we are going right now, in the way that we are burning fossil fuels, in the way that we are warming the planet, like for instance, the tropics are going to be totally deserts. And think about the people from Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Panama. Imagine those areas that are basically the lungs, including Brazil, the lungs of the world. Imagine those like the Sahara Desert. Imagine the people who live, the millions of people who live in these areas, they had to move somewhere. And imagine that those are the lungs of our planet that they are destroyed. Without that, basically, there is no chance for humanity. There is no chance. So basically, the analogy that I make is like, for instance, some of you may have kids, is to see how the difference between having a kid that is like, in the 30 degrees and it goes until 39 or 40 degrees Celsius. Immediately, that chances are it's going to die. So that's what is happening to the planet. Right now, the planet is in fever. We are having a fever. And it's evident. We see the ice caps are melting at an alarming rate. Last week, there was a study in Europe about the scientists is just scratching their head to the pace in which the ice caps are being basically melting. And without the ice, that means that the accelerate is something that the scientific community called positive feedback, which is nothing positive. On the contrary, it's going to accelerate the warming on the planet, and it's going to start to basically destroy everything that we know, everything that we share is going to be destroyed according to the scientific community if we don't take an urgent action. So this year, we have a new leader of the world, we can call.
Yes, I was going to get there.
So with that, at least we have some hope that we can start to address that crisis that is not Jairo Garcia or is not the liberals. It's the scientific community, scientists. They are running a computer models and they are observing what is happening. They are taking satellite images. They are measuring the temperature of the oceans, the land. They are measuring the sea level rise. There are so much data that it's just astonished that there are still any individual that doesn't believe that is happening is because it's blind to data and science.
And that's what my next question was about. Like, is it this realistic for humans around the world, or is it just realistic for activists in environmentalism issues like we are? I mean, how can you ask someone that does not know that climate change is real and they deny it, like Mr. Trump and the organization before our new great president, Mr. Biden? How do you say to them, hey, you know what? You're wrong. I mean, this is so true. They're dying. Like everything is going so wrong. How do you change their mind? How do you make a switch there from the realistic cultural patterns that they have to the facts that faith, science have already in climate change, right?
So Kerry, there are some things that are happening. First of all, those individuals, you don't change their mind. They don't change their mind, but you can change their pockets. because the only that they care is their money. The only that they care, because they don't
Oh
care
my
about
God.
anything else. The only they
That's
care
so
is the
true.
money. And when their money start to get out of their pockets because of the destruction of climate change, then they pay attention. So right now, the amazing thing, the news that I have for all our listeners is that not even Biden, the President Biden, is talking about climate change. But when he mentioned that he's going to join the Paris Agreement, or corporations that for decades they were denying climate change, and they spent billions of dollars to distort the thinking of the people about climate change, those people came aboard. We were surprised to see that, for instance, the Petroleum Institute saying that they really they appreciate that Biden was going to join the Paris Agreement. The Chamber of Commerce, one of the worst climate designers in the world, they said that they applaud that. ExxonMobil, BP, all these organizations are saying that they applaud that. And I'm going to tell you why. Not because they want to be good, because there is nothing good on those people. It's because climate change is affecting them so badly. It's affecting the bottom line so badly. And not only that, the people, organizations are suing them. Here for ExxonMobil and BP and all those companies are being sued by cities because the destruction that is causing, because the destruction that is happening around the world. They are suing them because these organizations knew for decades about the impacts of climate change, and instead of alarming the people, instead of doing that, and there are documents that show that, there are documents that show that instead they knew that, and instead of addressing climate change, they decided to write it down. It's there, you can read those documents. They decided to invest billions of dollars to give politicians money to go there and say that climate change is not real. So probably the problem with your president and other people is because they are receiving money from the fossil fuel industry. But when the fossil fuel industry stop giving them money, and when they're receiving the pressure from other people, like, look at what is happening, look at how many people, look at the tornadoes, look at the hurricanes, look at the ski resorts that are disappearing, look at the animals, and look at what is happening, then it's going to start to change their mind. So it's not about us telling them, because they're not going to listen to us. It's the banks, it's the insurance companies, it's the corporations that they're going to stop to giving them money, and then they're going to start to listen to. Not to us, to the banks, to the insurance companies that right now basically are in bankruptcy for the amount of money that they had to pay because of the destruction of climate change. That is going to be a change.
It's funny. I always say that God is allowing what is and this pandemic frozen everybody. And in these months are the well, I'm like, okay, there are a lot of signals that we have from a God that is telling us stop, do not think about the money. We are stewards of the creation that He created us. So it's really amazing what you're telling us, because it's about the money. For them, it's about the money. And I will say the same thing. Like, we have that problem by ages. Like, my ancestors, my grandfather said the same thing. And I remember my grandfather saying to me, I believe that you're going to have a better generation, a better world. And I am still here with you right now talking about the same thing. I mean, it's amazing that we are the ones bringing all the new generations and the awareness and the selflessness that we need to have, that to matter that we are all one, that we are not here because like we are going to be succeeding in this life. I mean, there's one life, one planet, as I always say. And you're also a member of the Climate Reality Project, right?
Yes, I am. I am the Climate Reality, and I am the chair of the Atlanta chapter for the Climate Reality. Mm-hmm.
Can you please introduce us what Climate Reality is?
I have the pin right here, by the way.
Oh my God, I didn't have it because I am a host right now, but I am too Climate Reality, so yes.
So the Climate Reality is a great organization. Everybody remember that in the year 2000, when there was the elections here in the United States, the Al Gore was going to run for president of the United States. And unfortunately, there was basically an attack on democracy, and the Supreme Court at that time, which is basically conservative, they allied with the Republican president. They gave it, the Supreme Court says, we're gonna stop the counting of votes. The Supreme Court told the American people they're gonna stop counting votes. So Al Gore lost the elections because even though he got the majority of elections, the Supreme Court decided to go against the wish of the people. So Al Gore
That's a
lost the
fact,
elections,
right? A fact,
but Al
right?
Gore, for many years, Al Gore, because he was the vice president of the United States, and he received a lot of reports from the scientific community telling them that climate change was a threat for the United States and for the planet. I'm talking about back in the 1990s. So Al Gore knew that. So what Al Gore did, it instead of collapse with the laws that he had in the bid for the presidency, he decided to do something constructive. And he said, I'm gonna make this information available to the public. So as you remember, he wrote this amazing book, An Inconvenient Truth, and he posted a documentary that made
Yes.
people aware of what was happening with climate change. Because he did that, he was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004, if I'm not mistaken, with the
Yes.
IPCC. So he chaired the IPCC, which I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And Al Gore, the chair of the Nobel Peace Prize, and you know that there is a lot of money in that. He took the money and he decided, I'm going to make good use of that money. So he said, I'm going to create these leaders around the world. I'm going to educate these leaders to become messengers about the crisis of climate change. And then so he created with a small group in his town of Tennessee, he created this organization with only, I think it was like 6 people. And now these people has been expanding the measures of climate change. And right now we are more than 30,000 people around the world. You know, you are in Buenos Aires and you are a climate reality leader. Many people all over the world are giving talks in Colombia and giving talks in Peru and Mexico. So this is a huge, huge organization all over the world to basically educate others about the importance of climate change, because climate change is such a big problem that requires to all of us to put a part in order to be sure that we fix it. Yes, we need the politicians, we need the governor, we need those people, but also we need us not only to elect them to be sure that address climate change, but also to make our own pieces that we can contribute to stop climate change. And we can talk about that in a little bit, about how individuals can do about climate change. But that's what the climate reality does, educating
Yes.
people about the impacts of climate change and what are the solutions. So this is the thing, Kerry. Even though climate change is a threat, right? And even though climate change is affecting our economy, it's taking lives, is causing so much destruction, but also there is a huge opportunity if we take it in that way. If we take it in the way that we can create a new economy, we can create a new society that are more in sync with nature. I mean, like, look at the COVID-19. The COVID-19 is the result of the destruction of the natural environment. Think about that. That is a test for humanity to realize that we had to stop our bad ways. If we don't stop our bad ways, look at COVID-19. And it can be, and there are plenty of scientific studies, I can show you those studies that show that COVID-19 is nothing. If we keep destroying the environment, the next virus or the next of the next is going to be so devastating that even chances of survival of humanity is not going to be possible. So if we really believe that we should survive, we need to change our ways. And the way to change our ways is to stop destroying the environment, giving nature a chance. And we have to change our ways for the way the food that we eat, the clothes that we wear, the way that we use electricity and water. We have to be conscious as a human thinking. We have something that is called brain to figure out that our actions has consequences. And if we collectively don't take action, nature is going to take care of us. You know, the planet is going to keep survival, and new species is going to survive. This is about us. Sustainability and climate change is not about the animals. Yes, we have to protect them because they protect us. If we don't protect them, they're going to let those viruses that are there in the jungle, you know, in all those animals, those viruses are going to come and attack us. And that's exactly what is happening in COVID-19. COVID-19 is the
That's
result
funny.
of the destruction of the environment. Yes?
That's funny that you mentioned it. I mean, I'm in Buenos Aires right now, and yesterday we had an invasion of flies everywhere. It was so hot here, and they started coming as like in my home. I was like, oh my god, like wow. I started praying, and then I just let the flies out. Didn't kill them because I love animals so much. So and insects and everything, and they're God's creation. So I'm like, okay, what's going on? And when I checked the temperature, oh my god, it was like 10 degrees worse than week before. So there's so much facts for climate change. So why do you think that this administration of Mr. President Biden is going to be different when in the Paris Agreement, United States was a long time ago, although Mr. Trump take it out from the United States there, but this administration is going to be different from other years where the United States was in the Paris Agreement and they did not reduce any emissions. So why do you think this administration is going to be different from others? And how does this affect the other countries? Because you know that when United States says no or say yes, every country is paying attention. So that's a fact and nobody can get mad for that. That's a fact. So how is this administration, and this with Mr. Kerry here, Mr. Biden and Mrs. Kamala Harris, going to be different for us and in every single country in the world?
So yeah, this is very important. It's not just because the United States is United States, it's because the United States is the second emitter of carbon emissions in the planet after China. So we emit a lot of pollution. We, the United States, is causing the problem enormously. So it's our responsibility to do that. Not only that all the wealth of the United States that for decades has happened with industrialization is putting a lot of carbon there. So we basically, United States created, and the developing countries, not only United States, but also, mostly developed countries, not developing, developed countries are responsible for climate change. Now developing countries are trying to catch up with development, but we cannot blame them. We created a problem. We were the one who created the coal plants and all the pollution that we are putting in the environment. So it's our responsibility to take care of that. But not only that, that is just the opportunities that we can provide to other countries. United States have the obligation to be the leader, So before what is known now, remember that the Paris Agreement was in 2015, so it was not too far away. And then when the United States joined the 2015 agreement, which basically the last year, we had to be credit to President Obama, because this is what he did. And that's why it's so important to have diplomatic people in those relationships. So this is what I did. So one of the oppositions in the climate agreement was China. But this is what Obama did. Obama organized a climate event in California and invited the bigger representatives of China to California to talk about climate change. And he creates these conversations, and they talk and they listen, we are the two largest polluters, we can do that. And after that event, China joined the Paris Agreement, and immediately he signed the Paris Agreement. But it was too late for him to do anything. It was 2015, the following year, 2016, it was when this, I wanted to say monster, but it's probably it's just too low
no,
than that. Probably something worse than that. It was elected by the surprise of the United States and the world. But then, so that stopped there, and it stopped during the 4 years. The only we have seen is destruction, bad example, corruption, the worst of the dictatorship. Donald Trump remind me of the dictators in South America at the worst. But luckily, the democracy, even though there was an attempted coup, probably you guys saw that, but they fell, and democracy triumphed. And now the democracy, the majority of the United States people elected the president that cares about climate change. The big difference right now is that, as I mentioned, as soon as Biden signed, they joined the Paris Agreement, companies that never in history before, were helping us. They applaud, they support it. The Petroleum Institute, the Chamber of Commerce, ExxonMobil, BP, those companies say, yes, we're gonna be there. Again, it's not because they want to be good, it's because the bottom line, the money is getting, is getting affected. So it says, oh yeah, definitely, nobody can deny physics. No, you cannot deny gravity. You cannot deny climate change. Something that is happening is real. So they are being affected, and that's why they want to collaborate. So imagine that. So imagine that we are working with the polluters, the ones that are polluting the environment. We are working to start to be an example in the world. And as you have hearing John Kerry, he's the envoy of the United States in the Paris Agreement. I mean, he's been very, very explicit. He says, no other country, even though the United States is not doing anything, no other country in the world is doing enough. The good news, Kerry, probably you heard about it. That was last Sunday. It was a study that showed that Europe right now is producing more energy from renewables than from fossil fuels, the first time in history. So
Wow.
Europe is being an example so far, even though it's not even meeting the Paris Agreement yet, but it's being an example. So the United States has to jump over there and then work together, not only for the developed countries, but also with all developing countries. Because at the end, the ones that benefit the most with clean energy and sustainability is our countries, our developing countries. Because I mean, with solar, when you have solar panels and you have solar cars, you don't need to import gas from the United States, or you don't import cars from Russia or other countries. You don't need to do that. You create your own. It's just from the sun. It's gonna be benefit everybody. So I mean, when I go to those farms in Colombia, you know, in the middle of nowhere, they need sustainability. They need wind. They have wind. They have sun. They can produce their own electricity. They can you know, tap the water from the rivers. They can be sustainable. We don't have to depend all the time from big Exxon Mobils and fossil fuel BPs. We don't have. They are basically sucking all our money, all of our wealth in the entire planet. That's why they are doing this so far. But apparently, as you know, indicated for last week, apparently they had to change their tune because things are changing very quickly and it's affecting them as well. I'm gonna give you one example. The headquarters of BP, the British Columbia, British Petroleum, is in Houston, and many other headquarters of those fossil fuel companies are in Houston, Texas. Houston, you can call it a miracle from God, you know, but it's just so ironic that Houston is one of the cities that has hitting the most with climate change, because it's right there in the Gulf. So when Hurricane Harvey basically submerged the city, the headquarters of BP were so full of water that they had to send, I'm talking about several years ago, 2017, they had to send all the employees to work from home for months because their headquarters was full of water caused by climate change. So it's an example that climate change doesn't discriminate if you are rich, poor, famous. It doesn't discriminate. I'm expecting, and it's going to happen, and you're going to say, oh, Jairo said that climate change is going to destroy Mar-Lago because it's right in the coast of Florida in the path of hurricanes.
Oh my God.
That is going to happen. And they say, Jairo said that.
God, I hope
But,
not.
hey,
Oh my God. Oh my God, I hope not. Yeah, you know that I don't think that the public understands that we need to change not our minds but our habits also. You know that a habit, a routine, you like sports, so your discipline is like 21 days for our mind to establish the habit in our lives, and it's like a routine of 21 days. I don't know if they understand that we have in the nature everything that we need to eat, to survive. We don't have to have or be successful with a lot of money or companies just to be somebody. We are all unique and we are all creation of God as his image. So we are going to be fine if we gather together to fight for this climate crisis and this climate change and these sustainability patterns of minds that we need to have. So the question is, how these individuals, these citizens that are watching you right now and in the rebroadcast that are going to watch, how can they take action from their lives just to change it? They need to be in a senate, in a parliament, or they need to be in a government, or they need to be a politician, or they need to be famous. How can they take action, real action, to mitigate the global warming?
So thank you for asking that. That's really important. So yes, we need everybody. We need everybody to take a common action, and also individual actions are extremely important. So the first thing that I believe that you know, in our countries, you know, Colombia or Argentina, I believe a little bit in democracy. Somehow, maybe it's utopic, my thinking, but I believe that is some kind of democracy. So the first thing that we have to is, as a citizens, demand climate action, and never give the opportunity to any politician ever to be in a public office that denies climate change, because that person is going to be an obstacle. That person is going to be the worst there. We have to eliminate climate change deniers from a public conversation. They should not, because they are, in my concept, they are criminals. They are criminals. Politicians that deny climate change are criminals, and we don't want criminals in a public office. So the first thing that we have to do as a humans, as a conscious citizen, is to elect representatives that work on climate change, because it's a crisis. It's a crisis, and we have a window so small. The scientific community is telling us we have a window very small. If we don't reduce 50%, 50% of our emissions by 2030, and 100% by 2050, then the world is going to collapse. How they know that? Because they have computer models, they have historic data that they can put together. They know these models and scenarios, so they know if we don't reduce carbon emissions, we are going to collapse. We're going to collapse. So one thing is, as individuals, we have to be sure that we elect politicians that address climate change. One thing. The other thing is that obviously we have to inform ourselves about what is climate change, how climate change is happening, and all the physics about climate change are not that difficult. I do this talk all the time. We have to educate ourselves about climate change. Elect politicians that are working with climate change, educate ourselves, joining the Climate Reality Leader, which is free. The Climate Reality Leader is free. We educate you for free. So there is no excuse. So that's what the service that we do as a Climate Reality organization. We educate. I receive emails from people like, can you talk to the Rotary Club, and can you talk to my school? Last week I gave a Rotary Club presentation. I gave a presentation at school of high, how you call it, higher K-12, call it here in the United States. So we do that presentation for free. There is no excuse about educating yourself. The third thing is to start to change in the ways that we do that. How we do that, things that are consume a lot of carbon emissions. Like for instance, driving. We had to reduce our driving, maybe taking public transit, maybe riding our bikes is good for our health. I have my bike in front of me. I ride my bike here in the United States. I'm very proud of that. People are stuck in traffic and I just go like nothing. Riding bikes. And then one thing that I know that our people don't like this, but we have to understand, especially in Argentina, is we had to reduce the consumption of meat, because meat is destroying the planet. Meat is destroying the planet. And it's not only that, it's destroying our health. You eat a lot of meat, and then you know that your blood pressure is going to increase, your cholesterol is going to increase, you're going to be a sick person. So for our health, just listen to your doctor, for our health and for the health of the planet, we have to reduce the consumption of meat. We have to reduce the consumption of animals. There are plenty of alternatives in the market. I've been vegetarian for 20 years and I run marathons. This morning, I run 15 kilometers. Not a problem. Where I get my protein? I get my protein from the same source that the elephants, the rhinos, the hippopotamus eat the protein. They don't eat meat.
What do you mean? From where? I'm a vegetarian
vegetables, tons of vegetables, a lot of vegetables.
Oh
they are
God,
delicious.
right.
I can someday I want to, I can cook for you or for you guys. I prepare delicious plates with mushrooms. Mushrooms with there is so many options. Now in the supermarkets right now, I have like for instance something that is called the Impossible Burger, which is made with beets and it's absolutely delicious. You put an Impossible Burger and a piece of steak, and you don't notice the difference. It just tastes so good, and it's all done with vegetables. We can change our minds if we just put it like, again, if you just don't want to do it for the planet, do it for yourself. We have to reduce the consumption of meat. It's so easy, and then you feel so great. So great. The strongest person in the planet is a vegetarian. And we know right now the vegetarian improve performance in every aspect, for ladies or guys, especially if guys wants to be a good performer, vegetarian is the way to go. And there are plenty of studies. I would happy to show you the studies that comes like, oh, let's eat meat, it's stronger. No, those are the sickest persons. They have so many cholesterol problems. They are the ones that are just gonna sit down and fall asleep. Now, being with vegetables, a lot of energy, is so healthy. I feel so healthy after 20 years of being vegetarian that I won't even think in my mind to go back to meat. I don't even miss it. So
I totally agree. Totally agree. You know that one of the facts that people tell me in the street and when I make my presentations is that I always talk the same to them and the same subject about vegetables. I am one of you also. And they have told me like, yes, of course, but First of all, in underdeveloped countries, like vegetables are very expensive. So we cannot get them as free or as like cheaper as in United States or other countries. We are really bad in agriculture here, so they are not free for us. So we can just eat whatever.
Can I tell you something about that? Because that is a fallacy. I'm going to tell you why. When I grew up, I told you that I grew up very poor in Colombia, and we never have access to meat. Meat was so expensive. Only we have access to vegetables, and there were so much vegetables. And then suddenly, meat becomes more cheaper. And I'm going to tell you why meat is cheaper. I'm going to tell you why meat is cheaper. Because creating meat is very expensive. Cows, who can tell me that growing a cow is cheaper than growing some lettuce? Who can tell me that? That is a lie. But you know why? Why in the market meat is cheaper? Because bad policies. We're talking about sustainable policies. Because the governor, we give money to meat producers to reduce the price. That is called incentive. We give them money to reduce the price. So they are making the money and they are killing us. But that is not true that the vegetables are more expensive. It's that we use bad policies in order to make meat cheaper. But that is not true. I mean, if you look at, we go to the circle economy. Go to the circle economy. How much vegetable you have to grow in order to feed the cow? What about instead of going to the cow? What about those vegetables go to your table? So, but in order to change that, those economic measures, we have to elect good politicians that are not corrupted. Chances are that the politicians in Argentina, because in Colombia too, they have a tremendous amount of land growing cows. They are making money. So then they ask from the government money so they can only get money from there, and they sell the cows to make, it's a whole business. It's a bad business that is killing the planet. But if we eliminate those big landowners of land and cows, if we can eliminate those ones and stop giving them money, you're gonna end up that, like for instance, we are trying to do about talking about sustainability. We can grow our own vegetables. We cannot even have to go to the supermarket. So if you have a small plot, I'm going to tell you one example. I can tell you forever a lot of things, but I had the opportunity to go to Cuba one time. And Cuba in 2006 became the most sustainable country in the world, even though with all the poverty, because it's extremely poor country, they are extremely sustainable. They became sustainable not because they wanted to, but because they need. So the United States wants us to starve. After the collapse of the Soviet Union, the United States wanted to starve during the senior Bush. They wanted to stop Cuba so they can invite Cuba again. But what happened, the Cubans were kind of smart, and then they said, we're gonna go vegetables. You go to Cuba and you see everybody growing vegetables, and the government are giving the seeds, the tools, the education, and you see everybody growing tomatoes, everybody growing with trees, with apples. And I mean, there are so much food there that they had to feed themselves. Imagine that.
No,
So
I'm gonna like stop you there 1 minute. I lived in Cuba 1 year. I went there to study. And one of the things that was shocking for me is that they didn't have a choice. I went there in 2003 till 2004 till 5. So I know what you're talking about. And the thing is that they didn't have a choice. So I just remember in my mind that maybe we are so nice with everyone around us, politicians and governments, because when we don't give a choice to them to like exchange their money for our lives, there's a hope, like it's so difficult for underdeveloped countries to not have corrupted politicians. Like they don't think about the people, they don't think about the climate change, they just think about the money, as you say. And it's so easy to have the vegetables. I have in my balcony like a huge tomato and avocado, like I love avocado. So a huge urban there with all my vegetables there. And it's so difficult for the others to understand that maybe this is what I do in my individual life to mitigate the global warming and to reduce my carbon footprint, because they maybe don't understand what we are doing, but one day they will understand. So what you are saying is so good. Like they can do it in Cuba and they're humans and they're doing it. Why can we not do it in United States or in Colombia or Argentina or in Mexico? Why are humans so denial about everything? Like we are give presentations all the time and it's like, oh my God, nowadays we are having a new administration for climate change. climate change and climate crisis in the United States, and everyone is breathing out and is saying yes, that we need to get awareness of climate change. We need to get awareness of education in every single mind. We need to get awareness of the future generations that we are living here, because we are not going to be eternal. So
Exactly right.
what do you
Exactly right,
think
Cory.
that is so hard?
So it's hard because we are human. We are as a humans, we get trying to get the easy way, always the easy way. But we need to start to learn that sometimes the easy way is not the right way. We had to start to educate our kids. There are great companies here in Atlanta. I work with this lady. She's the grandson of Ted Turner. Yeah, her name is Laura Seidel, and she has this organization that is called the Captain Planet. I remember when I was a kid looking at the Captain Planet, and the thing that they do is go to schools and they teach students how to grow vegetables. We have to teaching more than anything else. Yes, we have to teach them, Spanish. Yes, but it has to be an area that is like we're gonna teach them to grow vegetables at home, so they can grow. They can grow the vegetables at home. So when we grow our vegetables at home, what is the excuse to say that the vegetables are too expensive when you are growing it in your garden? So it's just a change. It's a change. We need to change, and it's possible. Sustainability is all over the world. You heard about the United Nations goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. We're trying to educate our kids that the future doesn't have to be in the way that we are doing it. The future can be better. We can grow our vegetables. We can have healthy people that doesn't eat a lot of meat, instead eating fruits, eating even things that are good for them, that is good for the environment. Ride their bikes instead all the time jumping in cars, polluting the environment. Taking the right actions, and eventually be conscious about the politicians, because eventually we elect the politicians somehow. So we need to make sure that they are people that respect the planet, that respect sustainability, and work with other countries to make this planet better. I believe I have a lot of hope, even though that every day I mentioned the report that the ice caps are disappearing. Every day it's just worse and worse. But I hope that the future generations, I teach a lot of students at the university, and I hope that they get it. They get it. And they are not going to be tied to all those practices that are killing the planet. So I'm hopeful for that.
You are an activist, a protest activist. I've seen you in a lot of photos over there, protesting the Capitol tree and with the Presbyterian Church and everybody. And how can you say that there's some of them that have self-awareness of what they're doing, and others they're just doing it because they follow others, but they don't not have the consciousness of what the climate crisis is. So why do you think that this administration is not the same as the one from Obama, with all its faults, and it's going to be a new administration where the active.
Are you there, Kerry? I think I'm losing you.
Oh, okay. Am I on? Am
Yes,
I
yes. Now
live?
you are on. So the
Oh,
question
okay.
is how what administration is going to do different. So
Yes,
yes,
regarding
so
the protesters, I mean, there's a lot of activism, and there was a
yeah,
lot of activism in the Trump administration due to the climate change denial. Okay, we were all so angry and
yeah.
having like being frozen for our voices. And now you think that there's going to be like less protest from environmental crisis, environmental justice with this administration? And if that, what is in your perspective for sustainability minds? What are your sustainability policies that they should implement?
I truly believe that obviously there is nothing to when we were protesting because we were demanding climate action, but last week, the first thing the President Biden did when he sat down was to join the Paris Agreement, and then less than a week later he created this enormous package of climate, and he declared the Climate Day, which should be historic. That he's including every single criteria, every single decision of the governor that's going to take, the governor of the United States is going to take from now on, from education to to international relationships, to energy. Any decision that the government of the United States is going to take has to have a climate plan. So that makes it extremely progressive in that sense. And then he's something that is extremely smart. He creates something that is called the Citizens Corp. Citizens Corp basically is empower citizens to start to take action on climate change. It's absolutely, totally different. As a matter of fact, I had to say that even though I knew that he was going to support climate change, in the way that these policies are coming, is a surprise for everybody. We are just scratching our heads like, wow, we couldn't expect so much progress in such a short period of time. So it's between day and night. It's totally, absolutely different, the two administrations. And there is a lot of hope that these policies is specifically working at international level with other countries, helping developing countries to achieve sustainability and climate change. I think all these things are totally different, but also it's going to create a lot of economic development, and it's going to create a good relationships, with other countries, even with China. So it's going to be a better planet. It's in my concept. So we just need to be sure that support those efforts.
And what is like the climate reality project in Atlanta that you are, I think that you're the founder, right?
Yes, I am the founder.
Okay, so what do you do there in Atlanta, in Georgia?
So I started the chapter with 6 people. Right now we are more than 350 people, 355 to be exact. So we are leaders. All of us, we are leaders in climate change. We have, people working in the state. We have people working for the city of Atlanta, and then we have nurses. We have people from all over the world. I think I'm losing you. Are you there, Kerry?
Yes, I'm here. They stopped my video since like the internet is like, yeah.
So, but then,
Worse.
yeah, our work is to be sure that the policies that Biden is put at the federal level is trickling down to the city. So we're going to start to work in policies that the city can implement about climate change. So there is a lot of work that we have to do.
And what are the actions that the Climate Reality Project in Atlanta made, like in the cross countries with another states from the United States? Because I think that in the Trump administration, by myself, I was frozen in a lot of things, in a lot of work with a lot of enterprises. So how did you deal with the Trump administration at that time? Apart from protesting, because we were all protesting in every single area.
Well, we're trying to move at the regional level because the states have some kind of independence. So we were pushing here the states to deploy more solar. Like for instance, they were going to deploy 8 gigawatts of solar energy, and we protested, and we submit letters, and I went and talked to them in public hearings, and then we forced them basically to duplicate the amount of solar energy. So we were doing some things. But obviously we were alone because we were not support from anybody. No support was coming from the federal government. Now we have that support, so it's going to be much easier to push from bottom up as an activist, to push from bottom up the state, the city, and the state, and then coming from the top down from the federal government. So right now, it's in a sandwich. So the state and the city are in the middle. So it's going to be so easy for us. Work is going to be much easier. Doesn't mean they're going to stop working. It means that work is going to be easier to make them do. Implement policies and take measures to address climate change and sustainability. So it's going to be easier, more interesting in my concept.
Right. And if anyone wants to be part of Climate Reality in Atlanta, what do they have to do?
Just send me an email. I can put my email. If somebody can put my email there, send me an email, and that's it. Come to our meetings. It's free. We train you. It's for free, the training. Where did you get the training? Oh, last year?
In 2017.
2017?
Yeah, Seattle.
In Seattle. So, yeah. But now it's online. Everybody can get training. People in Argentina, I encourage you. Right now, we're going to have in April one that is going to be only in the United States, but we're going to have at least 2 international trainings. And then with the wonderful systems of the internet, everybody can get the training, and it's totally free. And then we help you in your initiatives. You have any initiative that you can implement. We give you the training. We give you the tools. The only thing that you need to do is just put your time and your passion to educate others about climate change. It's the only thing that we ask you: time and passion. That's all.
And we have a question from Facebook. It says, Tao Arellano, hello, I have a question, Dr. Jairo. Do you think that with only changing the policy in Mexico, the results could be others? I say this because there are some places here in Mexico that doesn't know how to read, but they know how to make money.
So yeah, definitely Mexico is a very important ally, especially of the United States. In Mexico, you know, they produce a lot of oil. Mexico produces a lot of oil, but then also that produces a lot of social problems, economic problems. Everything that has oil, it means corruption. If you think about every single country that is rich in oil, is corrupted. Think about Venezuela. I mean, Venezuela, it doesn't make sense for a country that is so rich, like in Venezuela, you know, and they have so many oil. That was the end of Venezuela. It was no natural resources. They have the jungle, they have the plains. It was a beautiful, so rich country, and it collapsed. It's collapsing. It's because oil is corruption. And then even though Mexico can say that it is blessed with oil, no, it's a curse. Oil is a curse. So Mexico, I have good friends in Mexico, but Mexico has to move away from fossil fuels very quickly. And they can do it. They have plenty of sun, you know, they have plenty of sun, more than Germany. And Germany is producing more renewable energy. So the first thing is, first of all, Mexico has to elect politicians that believe in climate change. Unfortunately, what I understand is that lady politicians are corrupted people that don't want to do anything about climate change, which is absolutely devastating. Um, but then about the system of education, I truly believe that when countries are electing good representatives that are cooperating with international level, they can learn so much. So the Sustainable Development Goals with the United Nations is working to obviously educate the people about, you know, be part of society, how we can be productive. And then we can work with those kind of systems. There are 17 goals in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and then, you know, from equity, gender equity, poverty, access to electricity, access to water. So there are, if we implement those policies, then we can start to leverage everybody. So again, Mexico has to. Since I mean, I love Mexico. I've been many times in Mexico. I believe that someday I'm gonna live totally in Mexico. But the problems are because corrupting politicians. So which is the problem probably everywhere. But we need to be sure that we elect people that represent us and then address climate change and address the interests of the people. But
And Ronnie,
the good news, I
yeah,
want to add one more thing. The good news is that we were analyzing one of the issues that the United States, I believe that the Biden administration is going to do is to work with the NAFTA, which is the NAFTA is the, you know, treaty between Canada, Mexico, and United States. And then it's going to be implementing policies in that trade that incorporate climate change. That is going to be extremely beneficial for Mexico, United States, and Canada. So I hope that instead of, you know, the Trump administration, me, with the Biden administration is us. They call North America, Canada, Mexico, and the United States. So hopefully this administration has a better relationship with Mexico.
well, it's ironic that this climate change and climate crisis that we are having everywhere drive us all in one. You know, like we are driving in union, in love, and in perspective sustainable minds, and we are not driving dividing us, but we are going to the original creation that we had always. So this is huge because by climate change we are more one in all and not in all. So this is like really good. Tao Orellano says if you can give your email to the audience, please.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, you can say it like
Oh, yes, it's my name, Jairo H. Garcia at urbanclimatenexus.com.
yes.
Jairo H. Garcia, Jairo in Spanish, like Jairo Garcia at urbanclimatenexus.com.
We will provide his email pinned in the YouTube channel, so don't worry, in Facebook too. For the rebroadcast over, we will do it again, so don't worry. And the next question is, Dr. Jairo, what do you think are the best sustainability policies for every government in each country, although they have different cultures and different situations, to adopt so they can mitigate global warming?
So obviously, I mentioned that the first thing we need to do is get away from fossil fuels, because every single country, and I want you to take note, and you have to give me credit for this. My saying is that the sun shines for everybody and the wind blows for everybody. It doesn't discriminate. The sun doesn't discriminate. The sun shines for everybody. And where the sun shines and the wind blows, we can produce electricity. We have to stop that dependency from fossil fuels because they are basically these big companies, these big organizations. They are basically tying us, just sucking all our money, all that we have for the profits. Once we become energy independent, when we don't have to pay them anymore, when we create our own energy and we grow our own food, it's going to be a better planet, not only for climate change, but also for all of us. Because instead of giving money to big corporations, we can invest that money in education. We can invest the money to our own development instead of giving money to those big corporations that are killing the planet. So sustainability is about independence. Sustainability is all about independence. It's been how I get independent from how I can produce my own energy, how I can collect the water from the rain and use that water so I don't have to connect or pay for water. That's being sustainability. How I grow my own food. So when all the energy is from sustainable sources, when the water is coming from sustainable sources, when the food is coming from sustainable sources, we as a humans, we can develop, we can be more progressive instead of just living to pay these big corporations that are destroying the planet. So sustainability is for everybody. Sustainability is a beautiful thing. And I encourage to everybody to look at the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, because if we achieve those goals, it's going to be a better planet for everybody. And we need to push for that. We don't have a lot of time in this planet, and the planet, if we keep doing what we are doing, the planet is not going to have a lot of time for us. So we need to, the time is ticking. The time is now. I know that we are so busy to trying to put food on the table and do things, but then we have to spend the minutes how I can be independent, how I can stop supporting those people that are destroying the planet. We can do that. And it's such a wonderful, it's a simple, beautiful life. My saying is that the best tomatoes are the ones that you grow. Those are the most delicious. Unless those are mine.
Yeah. Oh, for me too, of course. Yeah, for me too. So do you have any last words for our audience, our listeners?
My last word is like, we are in this boat together. It's a boat, we are all together. And if we don't work together, we're going to sink together. So please be active, learn more about sustainability, join the climate reality. It's free. There is no excuse. It's free. Change your bad habits, stop eating meat. It's so easy, so wonderful. It feels so great. You can imagine, you immediately in 2 weeks, you see the difference, how energetic you feel and how clean you feel when you stop eating animals. Learn more about sustainability, grow your own vegetables, be kind with each other. Again, we are in this planet together. We are in this boat together, and we have to all work together. So please join us to make this planet better for us and for our kids and for the kids of our kids. We can do this if we work together.
Thank you so much. And yes, that's a yes and a amen from our God. So yes, thank you so much, Dr. Jairo, for this presentation. Thank you so much for answering all the questions that I had for you. Thank you so much for being here. We are honored with your presence here. It was a great presentation, and I hope our listeners take any single detail of your questions answered, because it's very important to be conscious of what everything that you told us and we learn here. I always say that I learn when I have these wonderful guest speakers. I learn every single aspect of this. So if you wanted to join Climate Reality, if you want to be part of these trainings, they're going to be in the email that will be sent in the pinning in the YouTube channel and Facebook channel also, and the rebroadcast, we can do it also. So thank you so much, Dr. Jairo, for being here once again. And we are welcoming you for the last Saturday of the next month. We're having another wonderful guest speaker. Do not miss it. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for tuning us, and have a wonderful weekend and a great week ahead. May God bless everybody.
Thank you, Carrie.